Travel back to 1968 and discover how Pierre Boulle's Monkey Planet unleashed a groundbreaking film that redefined science fiction. From Rod Serling's script drafts to John Chambers' iconic ape makeup, Planet of the Apes took audiences on a journey filled with social commentary, jaw-dropping visuals, and one of the most shocking twist endings in movie history. Based on Boulle's novel, imagine flipping through Pierre Boulle's 1963 novel La Planète des Singes and thinking, well, that was a wild ride, but there's no way it could become a Hollywood film. Even Boulle himself doubted it. He saw his novel, known in English as Monkey Planet, as one of his more minor works, and its depiction of a technologically advanced ape society seemed prohibitively complex for any realistic movie adaptation. When it came time to craft the screenplay, Hollywood did what Hollywood does best. It tinkered, simplified, and reshaped the plot so it could fit both the time period's budget constraints and the cinematic realities of building a believable ape civilization on Earth-like sets. This process ended up pulling the story further away from Boulle's original concept, yet it also gave rise to something altogether new and captivating. By blending Boulle's cautionary tale with distinctly American themes, the filmmakers essentially invented an alternate universe. The result tapped into the anxieties of the 1960s, giving audiences a surreal yet eerily resonant reflection of the era's fears: nuclear war, civil rights struggles, and an overwhelming sense that humanity might be its own worst enemy. Rod Serling's early drafts, the legendary Rod Serling of the Twilight Zone fame, went through over 30 script drafts to try to make Planet of the Apes come alive. That's right, more than 30. At first, Serling stuck more closely to Boulle's vision of an advanced ape civilization with skyscrapers and modern technology, but there was a pesky issue: money. The film's budget was a mere $5 million. Not small by 1960s standards, but nowhere near enough to erect a futuristic ape metropolis. Serling, however, did bequeath the iconic twist ending involving the Statue of Liberty. That final image, Taylor dropping to his knees in despair on a beach littered with the shards of humanity's former glory, was quintessentially Serling, blending shock value with social commentary. Perhaps ironically, the cost-cutting nature of the final script, which downgraded the ape society from high-tech to more primitive, ended up amplifying that final reveal. By going from a near-future metropolis of apes to a simpler, more tribal setting, the shock of encountering recognizable human artifacts at the film's conclusion was magnified even further. Michael Wilson's rewrite. Blacklisted writer Michael Wilson stepped in to reshape Serling's drafts into something more practical and cheaper to shoot. Wilson injected humor, a trial scene that mirrored the era's socio-political tensions, and a decidedly low-tech ape culture to keep costs from ballooning. Much of the satirical punch came from him. Those scenes where the apes argue about humans in a tone reminiscent of how many 1960s Americans argued about societal others are pure Wilson. Even Serling admitted that the final product bore more of Wilson's stamp than his own. In a strange twist of fate, the blacklisted writer found a kind of redemption in mainstream Hollywood through a film about an overthrown human race. John Chambers' makeup. Innovation. John Chambers was already a master in the realm of special makeup effects, drawing from his wartime experiences. He'd worked as a medical artist during World War II, designing prosthetics for injured soldiers. For Planet of the Apes, he invented prosthetic pieces that managed to retain the actor's facial mobility. Before Chambers, makeup for simian roles often looked stiff or cartoonish, but his techniques, with carefully placed appliances, let performers convey expressions that were crucial for making the audience believe in a society run by apes. In 1969, Chambers was awarded a special Oscar for his work, an honor that essentially recognized the film's groundbreaking leap forward in makeup artistry. This innovation became so influential that studios began pouring more resources into advanced prosthetics, opening doors for countless future projects. Zoo research. Determined to make the ape makeup look as authentic as possible, Chambers spent countless hours at the Los Angeles Zoo. He observed and sketched the nuance of primate expressions, from the subtle twitch of a chimp's lip to the focused stare of a gorilla. This wasn't just about copying ape features, it was about capturing the expressive language in their faces. The more detail Chambers could incorporate, the more actors could convincingly perform through layers of latex and hair. His sketches were meticulously detailed. He analyzed muscle movements, how light reflected off fur, and even how certain apes blinked. All of these observations played a role in finalizing the makeup designs, which audiences found so unnervingly lifelike. Massive makeup team. When you have up to 200 extras playing apes in a single day, you need an army of makeup artists. The production employed over 80 of them at times, an unprecedented figure in Hollywood's memory. This sudden need for so many skilled artists meant that smaller projects around town had to adapt or wait. The daily ritual of turning humans into chimps, gorillas, and orangutans was daunting. Actors had to report hours before shooting, often as early as 2 or 3 a.m., to sit in the makeup chair. With so many people to transform, it became a logistical marvel. It wasn't uncommon for someone, half-finished with their prosthetics, to wander around the studio, chatting with costumed gorillas as they waited for the next step. Just another day on the planet of the apes. Makeup budget hype. Word got around that the film's makeup budget was $1 million, an astronomical sum for 1968. In reality, producer Mort Abrahams later revealed it was closer to half that, maybe even less. But that inflated number? It was a publicity stunt. For a film that hinged on presenting a believable ape society, the hype around that figure boosted curiosity. After all, if the production was spending that kind of money on makeup alone, how extraordinary would the final visuals be? Audiences were primed for spectacle. To be fair, the figure wasn't entirely off the mark when you factored in all the hidden costs, reordering supplies, having specialized staff on call, and maintaining the full schedule. Still, the official line was enough to make headlines and spark chatter, effectively increasing ticket sales. Charlton Heston's casting, Charlton Heston's gravelly voice and stoic, heroic persona were ideal for George Taylor. But it's easy to picture an alternate universe where Burt Lancaster, John Wayne, Rock Hudson, or Marlon Brando took on the role. Lancaster, ironically, had a history of turning down roles that Heston later accepted. This marked the 5th time. Heston's star power and rugged masculinity lent the film a sense of gravitas it might otherwise have lacked. When we see him bellowing that final line on the beach or confronting apes in a courtroom, he sells the existential horror of the situation. His presence said to audiences, "This is big, this is biblical." After all, Heston was Moses, he was Ben-Hur, now he was the face of humanity's downfall. The dissonance made it all the more dramatic. Edward G. Robinson's exit. Robinson was a Hollywood icon known for his gangster roles in classics like Little Caesar. Initially cast as Dr. Zaius, he even shot a makeup test, but the hours under heavy prosthetics, combined with his health concerns, proved too grueling. So out he went, and in stepped Morris Evans to fill the role. If you watch that early test footage, which still exists in glimpses, you'll see a drastically different vibe. Robinson's Dr. Zaius had a more subdued intellectual quality, whereas Evans's portrayal gave us a grander, more theatrical sense of paternalistic authority. Robinson's exit might have changed the film's tone, but it's hard to imagine now anyone but Evans delivering that final condemnation of Heston's Taylor. Makeup test success. Producer Arthur P. Jacobs needed to convince the suits at 20th Century Fox to greenlight an expensive, risky sci-fi film about talking apes. He assembled a $5,000 makeup test with Charlton Heston as Taylor, Edward G. Robinson as Zaius, James Brolin as Cornelius, and Linda Harrison as Zira. This short proof of concept showed, unequivocally, that the ape makeup could work on camera. It also showcased the intensity of Heston's performance. Rumor has it Fox's Richard Zanuck was skeptical until he saw that test. The moment he realized the apes looked genuinely expressive, not comedic or silly, he gave a thumbs up. Without that test, it's possible Planet of the Apes would have remained just another unmade script. Kim Hunter's makeup shock. Oscar-winning actress Kim Hunter, best known at the time for A Streetcar Named Desire, took on the role of Zira. The first time she saw herself in full ape makeup, she reportedly broke into tears. She feared she would lose her identity beneath the prosthetics and that no one would see her real acting. In time, though, she adapted, leaning into subtle expressions, raising an eyebrow, curling her lip, blinking deliberately, to convey Zira's empathy and sharp wit. Heston recalled a test screening where he walked right by Hunter in the studio lobby without recognizing her. When she tapped his shoulder, he nearly jumped out of his skin, having expected to greet a total stranger. Roddy McDowall's pranks. A beloved figure both on screen and off, Roddy McDowall portrayed Cornelius, and later other ape characters in sequels and TV spin-offs. He was known for being a bit of a jokester. One day he decided to drive home in full ape makeup, fully costumed, fur and all. Imagine being another driver on the freeway glancing over to see a chimp casually cruising along, maybe singing to the radio. Another time, McDowall surprised comedic legend Carol Burnett by showing up on her TV set wearing his Galen makeup from the 1974 Planet of the Apes series. These stunts made him something of an on-set legend, reinforcing his playful spirit and the bizarre nature of this production's daily life. Ape segregation on set. During breaks, the extras and principal actors in ape prosthetics would naturally form groups based on their species. Gorillas hung out with gorillas, chimps with chimps, orangutans with orangutans. It wasn't enforced, it just happened. Charlton Heston was both amused and slightly unnerved. The phenomenon mimicked the film's caste system, where each ape species had distinct societal roles. If you strolled by the makeup trailers at lunchtime, you might see a table of gorillas laughing amongst themselves, chimps gossiping about new lines, and orangutans quietly sipping their coffee while reading the script. It was life imitating art in the strangest way. Heston's flu advantage. Throughout filming, Charlton Heston battled a persistent flu which gave his voice a raspy, ragged quality. For a character who'd crash-landed on a hostile planet, survived dehydration, been shot in the throat, and was forced to communicate with distrustful apes, that worn-out voice lent an extra layer of raw realism. Even when he recovered, the producers asked him to keep that gritty tone if possible. Sometimes adversity on set can lead to an unexpected gift. Taylor's vocal fry and suppressed cough underscored his desperation, and it became one of the defining aspects of Heston's performance. Iconic line improvisation. The original script apparently read, "Stand back, you bloody ape," for the scene where Taylor finally regains his voice. But Heston, recalling a line from his earlier film, The Warlord, changed it in the moment to, "Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape." That line would go on to be plastered across promotional materials, repeated by fans, and parodied in pop culture. On set, it was an electric moment. All of a sudden, the docile, mute prisoner roared to life, shocking the apes, and the audience. That improvised touch made it one of the most memorable quotes in 1960s cinema. G-rated nudity. Despite featuring Charlton Heston wandering naked and some topless women among the human captives, Planet of the Apes managed to secure a G rating. Back in the late 60s, the MPAA's rating system was still developing, and the film's producers presumably argued that the nudity was non-sexual, tied to the primal conditions of the story. This made Planet of the Apes one of only 2 G-rated films of that decade to have nudity, the other being John Huston's The Bible in the Beginning. Audiences at the time might have been surprised to see Heston stripped bare, but it lent a raw vulnerability to a role that was otherwise defined by an alpha male bravado. Statue of Liberty secret. To preserve the shocking ending, fake script pages circulated among key production staff. In these decoy versions, the big reveal might have been a ruined skyscraper or something else entirely. Only a handful of people, including Heston and director Franklin J. Schaffner, had the real pages. When audiences first saw that half-buried Statue of Liberty, the collective gasp echoed through theaters worldwide. That dramatic shot, with swirling surf and a tormented Heston, hammered home the film's ultimate message. The apocalypse was man-made, not wrought by cosmic or divine forces. This kept the story's political and social subtexts firmly grounded in real-world cautionary warnings. Filming locations, from Utah's Glen Canyon to Arizona's Lake Powell to the shores of Malibu's Westward Beach, the production traveled far and wide. Each location doubled as a desolate, post-apocalyptic wasteland. The Ape City's architecture was inspired in part by Antoni Gaudi's sinuous designs in Spain and the rock formations of Turkey's Göreme Valley. This dreamy, curving, almost organic style gave the ape world a distinct ancient flair. This was not a freshly built society, but one that had been evolving for centuries. The final beach scene was shot at Westward Beach in Malibu, a location that's now on the bucket list of Apes fans around the globe who want to snap their own "damn you all to hell" photo. Cornfield growth. For the sequence where the apes launch a raid on human gatherers, the filmmakers needed a lush cornfield. They planted corn at 20th Century Fox's Malibu Ranch, waiting anxiously to see if it would grow in time. In a mere 10 weeks, they ended up with towering 8-foot stalks. The director was both thrilled and worried it looked too healthy, almost too perfect for a post-apocalyptic environment. In any case, that cornfield helped establish the apes as resourceful agriculturalists, reinforcing that humans had fallen low on the food chain while apes had cultivated a functioning civilization. Jerry Goldsmith's score. Jerry Goldsmith's avant-garde soundtrack went hand-in-hand with the film's radical visuals. He used ram's horns, stainless steel mixing bowls, and an array of percussion instruments that seldom graced mainstream orchestras. By avoiding traditional melodies, Goldsmith created a score that sounded as if it came from another planet, or at least another civilization. This musical experimentation earned him an Oscar nomination. Though he didn't win, his influence can be felt in every subsequent Planet of the Apes entry. The clang and wail of unfamiliar instruments echoed the film's theme. You're on Earth, but not the Earth you once knew. See no evil gag. That moment in the tribunal scene where the 3 ape judges strike the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil pose was something of a joke. Director Schaffner discovered the actors doing it during a rehearsal and found it so funny he included it. Charlton Heston later claimed they all regretted this flourish as it veered into campy territory, but by then it was shot and in the can. Today, it stands out as a whimsical wink in an otherwise serious piece of science fiction. Some fans love it for its darkly comedic commentary on bureaucratic indifference. Others think it undercuts the tension. Civil rights allegory, Released in 1968, the same year Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, Planet of the Apes resonated on multiple levels. The apes' caste system and their oppressive treatment of humans mirrored racial and social injustices in the U.S. The chimps are akin to progressive thinkers, gorillas represent the brute force of authority, and orangutans embody entrenched conservatism. Audiences saw a reflection of civil rights battles in the spectacle of caged humans and robed ape elders. Though the filmmakers never explicitly claimed to be making a direct statement, the parallels were too striking to ignore. Viewers recognized the film as more than a simple adventure. It was a coded commentary on bigotry and fear of the other. Box office. Triumph. On a modest $5.8 million budget, Planet of the Apes pulled in a hearty $33.3 million domestically, placing it among 1968's biggest hits. In a year that also featured Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, the success of Apes proved that science fiction could be both philosophical and profitable. For 20th Century Fox, it was a much-needed win, spurring the studio to quickly greenlight sequels. Critics credited its success to that unforgettable final shot, the bold social commentary, and the top-notch makeup that allowed viewers to suspend their disbelief. Heston's star power certainly helped, but the film's word of mouth was unstoppable. It was a conversation piece about just how far mankind might fall. Franchise launch. The unexpected windfall triggered a flood of sequels, 4 to be exact: Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, and Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Not to mention 2 TV series, multiple comic books, and a 2001 Tim Burton remake. The franchise became an entertainment behemoth, constantly evolving. Fans obsessed over the timeline, the intricacies of ape society, and how Earth's future might loop back on itself. For a film originally seen as a risky endeavor, Planet of the Apes emerged as one of Hollywood's longest-running and most reimagined properties, culminating in modern reboots that trace their lineage directly back to Heston's jaw-dropping condemnation on that eerie coastline. Anessa spaceship. While fans took to calling Taylor's ship the Icarus, the film itself never used that name, instead displaying the acronym ANESA for the fictional American National Space Administration. This was presumably a playful stand-in for NASA. Interestingly, the final name Icarus aligns with the idea of humankind's hubris, flying too close to the sun and facing catastrophic downfall. But in official material, it remained the ANSA craft. This detail carried forward into Escape from the Planet of the Apes and the short-lived TV series, giving continuity geeks plenty to chew on. It's a subtle piece of world-building that hints at a parallel version of America's space race. Nova's pregnancy cut. The original script had a subplot where Linda Harrison's Nova becomes pregnant, implying she might carry a human-ape hybrid. It was an incendiary concept for the time, crossing boundaries that might have triggered censorship backlash. Ultimately, the idea was axed to avoid controversy, though the Marvel comic adaptation included it, delighting fans who love exploring the weirder corners of the Apes universe. Dropping that storyline softened the film's sexual and evolutionary provocations, but the leftover hints, Nova's protective intimacy with Taylor, kept the tension alive for those who cared to read between the lines. McDowell's makeup tips. Roddy McDowell didn't just endure the prosthetics, he embraced them. He advised fellow actors to add subtle tics, like rapid blinking, nose wrinkling, or slight head tilts, to make their ape faces come alive. By ensuring the latex appliances moved with nuance, they avoided the dreaded rubber mask effect. If you watch closely, you'll notice how Cornelius or Zira might blink quickly when stressed, or shift their mouths to form specific expressions. These micro-adjustments are what brought the ape society to life and made each character feel distinct, even though they all wore similar prosthetics. Journalist Extras, producer Arthur P. Jacobs, had an eye for publicity. He invited notable journalists, including Army Archerd, to appear as background apes. Not only did the movie benefit from the free publicity as these journalists wrote about their on-set experiences, but they also had a blast being part of the phenomenon. Imagine typing up your entertainment column later that day, still half covered in spirit gum residue and reeking of makeup remover. It was an ingenious strategy that gave the film extra press coverage, further cementing curiosity among the reading public. Dead astronaut. Casting: the female astronaut Stewart, found dead aboard Taylor's spaceship, was portrayed not by a dummy or a younger actress, but by an 83-year-old woman. John Chambers, concerned that mannequins of the 1960s looked too fake, insisted on a real person for authenticity. Most viewers probably assumed it was some elaborate dummy. But if you look closely, there's a certain realism to her skin texture and the slight slump of her body. Though it's a minor detail in the grand scheme, it underscores the production's commitment to believability. Even in a film about talking apes, they wanted every frame to feel grimly real. National Film Registry. In 2001, the Library of Congress recognized Planet of the Apes for its cultural, historical, and aesthetic significance, adding it to the National Film Registry. This honor cements it as an American cinematic treasure. The registry's stated purpose is to preserve films that have shaped the nation's cultural landscape, and indeed, Planet of the Apes fits the bill. It merged pointed social commentary with science fiction spectacle, helping to elevate a genre often dismissed as mere escapism. Its final image remains one of the most iconic in movie history, repeatedly referenced and parodied over the decades. Even if you've never seen the film, you likely know its final shot. That's how deeply this movie burrowed into popular consciousness. These 30 pieces of trivia capture the essence of how Planet of the Apes, 1968, burst onto the scene with innovative artistry, sly socio-political underpinnings, and an unforgettable reveal. It wasn't just another sci-fi flick. It was a mirror held up to the era's anxieties and a prophecy about humankind's potential for self-destruction. The behind-the-scenes labor, from massive makeup teams to clandestine script pages, and the on-screen synergy of a star-studded cast working within complicated prosthetics, all converged to create a landmark piece of cinema. Generations later, its message resonates as powerfully as its iconic imagery. Today's reboots owe a debt of gratitude to the 1968 original, which proved that intelligent, thought-provoking science fiction could also be a box-office juggernaut. And so we stand in awe of that haunting beach scene, both thrilled and terrified by the idea that our future might lie in ruins, maybe not under the grip of sentient apes, but perhaps undone by our own hubris. Planet of the Apes remains a timeless reminder that we should never be too certain of our own superiority, because you never know when a broken torch might be waiting around the next bend, a silent testament to humanity's final misstep.